start by talking. I will start by talking a little bit about FMAA, what's on it, who it's for, kind of how I see it working for a lot of people around the world in terms of helping get a job and things like that. And so I want to start by talking about actually, let me share, I'll share some slides with you, if that's okay. No, I won't. We won't. We'll just talk about it. So first of all, we need to understand what it is. No, that's okay. That's okay. What we're talking about here is a professional certification that kind of slots in as the beginning of CMA. Okay, it's called FMAA, Financial Managerial Accounting Associate. And this is not intended for somebody who has 15 years of experience and is a CMA, an ACCA, or CIMA. This is intended for people that are beginning their careers or are making a move into accounting and finance after having been somewhere else, or people that are responsible for a department or a budget, and they just want to learn a little bit more about accounting and budgeting and how that department fits in to the company. And so if we look at who this is for, it's for people that are looking to have entry into accounting and finance, whether it is a position working in accounts receivable, accounts payable, as a bookkeeper, whatever the case may be, somebody who's looking for that lower level position in accounting or finance, or looking to learn about accounting and finance after having been near it, but without actually ever studying it. And so this certification is, in a lot of ways, I see a very good certification for somebody starting their career. And I'm going to guess that that's what most of you are, people that are looking to start your career. And so I want to make a timetable, okay? A timetable in terms of what certifications require. If you start studying CMA today and you're earlier in your career, it very well could take you 2 years to prepare and pass your exams. Now, I understand that if you study 10 hours a day, it will take less than that, but most people don't have 10 hours a day to study. And so if we look at just kind of a realistic 10 to 12 hours a week, it may take you 2 years to study and pass your CMA exam. Because FMAA is a much shorter exam and covers a lot less material, you would be able to study and pass FMAA in 2 or 3 months. Okay, 2 to 3 months is probably what you would be looking at. If you already know debits and credits very well, it will take you even less time to study for FMAA. So what would happen is you're just graduated from university, or you're at the end of your university time. You can take FMAA and pass and get your FMAA certificate in 6 months. Very realistic. The content that is on the FMAA exam is almost all of it is on the CMA exam as well. So what happens is this: in FMAA, they cover variance analysis. Variance analysis is covered on FMAA. You need to know direct materials variance, price and quantity, and the direct labor variance, price and quantity, and fixed overhead variance as well, but price, material, and labor variances. On the CMA exam, you have to do direct material, price and quantity, direct labor, price and quantity, variable overhead variances, sales variances, and variances for materials and labor when there is more than one level of input going into the product. So FMAA teaches this much of variance analysis, and CMA covers this much. So what this means is when you are studying for FMAA, you are also studying for CMA.
So we can name it, sorry for disruption. We can name it as a prior CMA course or a prior CMA.
Well, what happens is because you're studying FMAA, your time to study CMA will be shorter. So I think if you start studying FMAA and it takes you 4 or 5 months, and then you switch to CMA, you will still finish in 2 years. So adding FMAA to your study, so you do FMAA and then CMA, I think you will finish at the same time for CMA. But what happens is with FMAA, after you pass that exam, you get a certificate. You get the piece of paper that says you are FMAA qualified. So when you're looking to get a job, you have a certificate. Because right now, if you started studying CMA, you're not a CMA. And so you put on your CV that studying CMA Part 1. Well, that doesn't mean anything. Okay. I can say I'm studying to be a lawyer. I haven't done very much yet, but I've thought about it. I think so. Taking FMAA first will give you a piece of paper that has value. And you've already started studying CMA. And there's something else too about FMAA, and I know that this is not for you, but for other people. If you are not able to pass FMAA, you should not study CMA. And so this is something that what you're able to do is to make a smaller investment. And if you have trouble understanding what is an FMAA, you should not start studying CMA yet. So what's happening is, in a sense, FMAA is a little bit like an insurance policy. Because if you study FMAA and then CMA, the cost is a little bit higher. You have another exam registration. You might have another material or course cost. It's a little bit higher when you do it that way, but you get the certificate after 4 months. And you also can find out whether or not CMA is realistic for you. What you're studying in FMAA is almost all on the CMA exam, like I said. The part of it, but not all of it. And I gave the example about variances. On FMAA is debits and credits, bookkeeping, adjusting entries, the closing trial balance, the adjusted trial balance, all of that. If you know that already, the amount of time required to study FMAA will be greatly reduced. If you're not comfortable with debits and credits, it will take you longer to prepare for FMAA because you will have to spend that time learning that. Everything else on FMAA is basic business, budgeting, working capital management, variance analysis, return on investment, a little bit about internal controls, overhead allocation. Okay, what's on the exam is very good content. And you are starting to study for CMA at the same time, which will reduce the amount of time that you need to study for CMA. Because when you're studying CMA and you get to the topic of variance analysis, you already understand materials and labor variances. and you're ready to start the more difficult variance topics that you have. So this is a good way to get a certificate earlier than you will with any other certification. So the next question that all of you are asking is, will this get me a job? If I pass FMAA, will I get a job? The answer to that is, it's not a guarantee. And I'll demonstrate why. Let's pretend that you have CMA, ACCA, SEMA, CPA, and 5 other certifications. And you go to the interview. And when you go to the interview and they ask you a question, you look at the floor when you talk, you give answers that don't make sense, you are rude, you're not polite, you're not going to get the job. So no certification guarantees that you get a job. You need to go through the interview and do well in that interview. So from my perspective, I see having FMAA as a very, very good opportunity for you. You go to an interview, the person looks at your CV and says, "What's FMAA? I've never heard of it. I don't know anybody who's an FMAA. I've never heard about it. What is it?" This question, when they ask you to tell them about FMAA, gives you the opportunity to tell them what you know. Tell them what is covered on that exam, the skills, the knowledge you have because you took FMAA. And it gives you the opportunity to demonstrate, to show them that you are able to communicate with other people. If you answer this question about FMAA and you answer it confidently with a nice structure to your answer and provide relevant information, you are showing the company that not only do you know the debits and the credits, but you are able to communicate ideas to other people. Not everybody can do that. And so FMAA, CMA, CPA, ACCA will not guarantee that you get a job. They will get you an interview. How you do in that interview will determine if you get the job. And if you're starting your career and you're either in university or have left university and you're in the beginning of your career, think how many other people that you know that are the same age as you, that have the same education that you do. They went to your university. They have the same grades as you. You were in the same organizations at school. You did the same projects. So you need to find something that demonstrates to the company that you are the best person for that job. Everybody who's interviewing has the same education. The interview is your opportunity to show them that you know how to communicate, that you're able to answer a question, you're able to answer a question clearly and completely, you know how to make a presentation. Because if you can't do that, it doesn't matter how qualified you are. It doesn't matter what knowledge you have in your head if you are not able to communicate it to other people. So FMAA will not guarantee you a job. It will get you an interview. And it will give you the opportunity in that interview to be very, very good, to be better than everybody else interviewing. I was just reading a book or listening to a podcast or something, and somebody was talking about Google as a company. And they said everybody at Google is very, very smart. Everybody's in the 99th percentile at Google. So if you want to get promoted, if you want to show Google that you are better employee than somebody else, you don't do it with your brain. You don't do it with your intelligence and your knowledge. You do it by communicating that knowledge better than anybody else, by interacting with other people, by being able to understand the best way to communicate with different people. And this is what you're doing when you are interviewing for that job. Everybody on paper is the same. Same university, same grade, same clubs, same organizations, same events you went to. Your chance to do better, your chance to be the person that they hire is how you communicate with them in that interview. And after the interview, send the person a thank you email. Thank you for the opportunity to interview with your company. I greatly appreciated your time. Have a great day. Those are the things that after you get the interview will get you the job. So I'm being honest. I know from a sales perspective, I'm supposed to tell you that, yes, if you get FMAA, you will get a job, guaranteed. But that's not true. It will help. But you still have to take what you know from FMAA and demonstrate to the company that you're going to be able to use that skills for them. So let me take a different topic here and talk about the exam itself. What is the exam? The exam is 80 multiple choice questions. There are no essays. There are no problems. You only need 4 keys on the keyboard, A, B, C, and D. That's all you need. 80 questions, 2 hours. So less than 2 minutes a question. But 80 questions in 2 hours. There's one exam, and that's it. The eligibility requirements for the exam, you need to pay money. That's it. You don't have to have a degree. You don't have to have an accounting degree. You don't have to have a finance degree. You need to pay the money. After you pass, you will need to continue to pay every year to maintain it. You will have to do some continuing education to maintain that FMAA. But hopefully what will happen is 12 months, 18 months after you pass FMAA, you will pass CMA. And so doing everything that you need to do to maintain your CMA certificate will also then maintain your FMAA certificate as well. The cost, somebody just asked, how much does it cost? The registration cost for the exam for March is $249. I do not know what it will be for the next session. Okay, but for the March exam, it's $249. The normal price is $299. IMA has provided a discount for everybody here at the beginning. I do not know if that will continue, if that will be the price going forward. Worst case scenario for price is $299. The cost of the training, I don't know what the cost is of the live taught training, so I won't answer that question. But this is something that is much more financially realistic than CMA at the beginning. One thing I want to do also to talk about is that cost and what it means. One of the things that is on FMAA is return on investment. And the way we measure return on investment is we take the amount of the return, the profit, the dividend, whatever, and we divide it by the amount that is invested. When we're talking about a professional certification, FMAA, and even more so CMA when you become a CMA, I want you to think of the return on investment in a different way, not in a financial standpoint, but in a time standpoint. And let's do CMA. Let's pretend you're going to do CMA after FMAA. So you spend 2 years studying CMA. You will benefit from your CMA certificate for the rest of your career. So if you're just graduating from university now, you have 40 years of a career in front of you. You study for 2 years and you get benefit for 40 years. If we look at the return on investment from a time standpoint, that's a very good return on investment. And if we look at it from a financial standpoint, for FMAA, let's say worst case scenario, the registration and the cost of the training course, $800. Worst case, I'm sure it would be less than that, but let's say $800. I understand that when you're starting your career, $800 is a lot of money. I understand that. But when we consider the benefit that you're going to get from it, it's a small investment. If you get a job 1 month earlier because you're FMAA, that's 1 month of salary that you have that you didn't have before. If you get a job because you have FMAA and it pays you $25 a month more, in 2 years, you've paid back that investment. I understand and I know that professional certifications are not cheap. But you need to remember that they provide a benefit to you for the rest of your career. And just like any other investment that you make, it's difficult at the beginning. But after a few years, you really enjoy all of the benefits that it gives to you. So if it's expensive, and it is, if it's expensive, you want to make certain that you pass. Because if you fail, it becomes even more expensive when you have to pay the exam fee to take the exam a second time. And this is where the class comes in for you. And studying in a class for FMAA. You are in a group. It is easier to study when you're in a group because you go to class on whatever day, Tuesday evening, and you know that the other 20 people in the room have already studied this topic. They did their homework. They're current. You don't want to go to class and be the one who's a week behind. So when you're studying in the class, yes, a big part of that is knowledge and having the explanations, potentially partially in Arabic. But there's also the benefit of being in a group, not being alone. When you self-study and you sit in your apartment every day studying, it becomes difficult. It's like you're working in a vacuum and it's just you. But when you're in a group, you realize that you're not the only one who has difficulty with the topic. You realize that it's normal, and very few people just understand it all quickly. So that has value as well. The classes, our materials, 360's classes, you pass. If you take advantage of those resources, you will pass the exam and start benefiting very, very quickly. There's questions about the exam in March. The dates for the exam in March is March 1st to March 31st. Every day in March is available unless your local testing center is closed for some reason. Okay, I know there was one, I don't even remember what country, closed recently because the weather was so bad and nobody could even get to take their test. But March 1st to March 31st. We do not know when the next window will be. IMA is going to take all of the results from March, make certain that the results were what they expected it to be, and it isn't something where 99% of the people pass or 99% of the people fail. And then they will make any changes that they need to make, and then there will be another test window. So I am expecting, personally, 2 more test windows in 2024. I don't know when they will be, but that's my guess is there will be at least 2 more test windows in 2024.
Okay, Brian, can I give a conclusion in Arabic for
Absolutely.
the attendees?
Yep.
طيب ترجمة كده للي قاله مستر براين خلال الايفنت او خلال الويبينار. هو مستر براين قال ان الاف ام اي اي هي شهاده نقدر نقول عليها ان هي شهاده مقدمه للسي ام اي، بس انت في الاخر معاك شهاده مش واخد او مش دارس مجرد كلام. معظم الماتيريال اللي فيها ومعظم المنهج بتاع ام اي اي هو مقدمه للمناهج اللي موجوده جوه السي ام اي، يعني البادجيتنج، الاكاونتنج، الانترنال كنترول، او قليل من الانترنال كنترول، بعض العناصر الثانيه اللي موجوده في السي ام اي موجوده في الاف ام اي اي بس بشكل اصغر. الاف ام اي اي هي تعتبر او نقدر نقول عليها مقدمه للسي ام اي. لو انت ما نجحتش في الاف ام اي اي ما تجازفش بانك انت تاخد سي ام اي، لانك انت معناها انك انت مش هتقدر تعدي في السي ام اي. في الاخر معاك شهاده معتمده من الاي ام اي، مش شهاده صغيره، شهاده معتمده من الاي ام اي تدخلك الانترفيوهات. هل هي بتضمن لك الوظيفه ولا لا؟ لا طبعا، ما فيش حاجه في الدنيا بتضمن الوظيفه. اللي يضمن الوظيفه هو في بعض السكيلز الثانيه اللي بره الشهادات. مهما كانت شهاداتك هتحتاج السكيلز دي عشان خاطر تقدر توصل للانترفيو وتعدي الانترفيو. محتاج كوميونيكيشن سكيلز، محتاج برزنتيشن سكيلز، محتاج خبره في الحياه. على كل الاحوال الار او اي او الريتيرن اون انفستمنت على الشهادات المهنيه بشكل عام وعلى الاف ام اي بشكل خاص في الاخر ات ويل باي اوف. يعني انت اللي انت هتاخده، اللي انت هتدفعه النهارده ايا كان هتدفع كام، فتاكد ان هو هيبقى حاجه يا اما تتعين بدري شويه عن غيرك، يا اما هتبقى حاجه زياده في راتبك. ده المؤكد. الحاجه الثانيه اللي هو بيتكلم عنها هو دراسه دراسه الاف ام اي اي والتسجيل. هو اتكلم عن الكوست بتاعها $249. اتكلم عن عن 360 وعن الماتيريال اللي بنقدمه. احنا بنقدم ماتيريال هوك، واحنا نعتبر وكيل ان شاء الله، يعني ده بارتنر مع هوك في كل الماتيريالز بتاعته، السي ام اي والاف ام اي اي وخلافه. بس ده كده باختصار شديد اللي هو اتكلم عليه. في سؤال هنا هو ما جاوبش عليه مستر هوك، اللي هو how to book for March and is it able to pay in Egypt. تواصلوا مع الادمنز في 360 وهم ان شاء الله هيفيدوكم بكل التفاصيل ازاي تسجلوا، سواء سجلت في الكورس او ما سجلتش في الكورس. احنا الخدمات الاستشاريه بنقدمها سواء سجلت او ما سجلتش، تواصل مع اي حد من الادمنز الجروبات الماسنجر، على الماسنجر، وهم هيردوا عليك ازاي تسجل وازاي is it able to pay in Egypt. احنا بنتكلم في $250. هل هي تغطي الحد الادنى، الحد الدفع دلوقتي ولا لا؟ عموما في كل الاحوال هي الاي ام اي بتحاول تشوف حلول للمشاكل اللي موجوده في مصر في العمله بشكل عام.
اسمح لي مصطفى، بس برضو يعني في بعض النقاط اللي قالها مستر هوك، لو تسمح لي يعني ان انا اوضحها.
اتفضل.
برضو مستر هوك بيتكلم على برنامج شامل انك تاخد الاف ام اي اي وتاخد السي ام اي مع بعض. ازاي؟ انت في العادي بتاخد سنتين عشان تخلص شهاده السي ام اي، يعني قلنا سنه. ده اغلب الناس يعني من سنه ونص لسنتين بالنسبه للمتحدثين باللغه العربيه. فاللي بيقترحه مستر هوك انك يعني تدرس السي ام اي عادي، بس انت هتبتدي بالاف ام اي. الاف ام اي هو بيقول بتاخد تقريبا شهرين، بس ده انا اعتقد يعني للناس النيتف في الانجليش. عشان عوائق اللغه ممكن تاخد معانا احنا 4 شهور تقريبا، 6 شهور اعتقد، يعني مش تاخد اقل من كده، من 4 ل6. الا لو انك اللغه بتاعتك كويسه او خليك تقرا انجليش، فانا اعتقد يعني ممكن تاخد معاك شهرين. طيب انت لما تاخد الاف ام اي هو نفس منهج السي ام اي بس هو مبسط، تمام. فانت لو نجحت في اف ام اي مبدئيا تبقى انت درست جزء كبير من السي ام اي، وبعدين انك اصلا هتكون ماخد على الجو بتاع الاسئله والجو بتاع الامتحان، فهتخلص السي ام اي في ميعادها، يعني اكنك اخدت شهادتين بشهاده واحده، تمام. بس طبعا الفيزا هتزيد. طيب انت اللي حصل انت خدت اف ام اي وبعدين لقيت نفسك ما نجحتش، لا انت خلاص هتعرف انك امكانياتك لا تؤهلك انك تاخد السي ام اي دلوقتي. تفضل في ورا الاف ام اي لغايه ما تنجح، بعد كده تدخل على السي ام اي. ده المنهج المقترح اللي مستر هوك بيقترحه، انك كده كده ماخد السي ام اي، فخد الاف ام اي وخلاص، تمام. الشهاده برضو كان مستر هوك ذكر ان هي مناسبه جدا للشباب اللي هي يعني خبره مش كبيره، يعني انت عندك 15 سنه خبره وحياه، لا يعني ادخل اي سي ام على طول، والانجليش بتاعك كويس. طبعا يعني الشهاده احنا من وجهه نظرنا كمجتمعنا في مصر وفي المملكه هي بديل كويس جدا للشهادات زي البي اف اي والكلام الفاضي الغير معتمد ده، تمام. آه يعني هي في شهادات كتيره، يعني في شهاده في السعوديه اسمها فني محاسبه، هي موجوده في او اكاونتنج تكنيكال. دي موجوده في استراليا، في معهد فنيين محاسبه في استراليا، في جنوب افريقيا، تمام. في طبعا الاي اي تي، انستيتيوت اوف اكاونتنت تكنيكالز في انجلترا، وده مدعوم من الاي سي سي اي، يعني معهد كبير. فانا اعتقد الشهاده دي زيهم كده بتخليك ايه يعني محاسب تمارس المهام الاوليه للمحاسب، تمام، وتعدك انك تاخد الشهاده اللي بعدها. ده يعني ايه تلخيص. طبعا الحته الاخيره من عندي ملهاش من يعني مستر براين، ده توضيح من عندي انا يعني. شكرا مصطفى.
هي في كمان تعليق على تعليق احمد ده المره. هو هو هنا في ناس
عارف
كتيره بتكتب
الرد على رد
رد على رد، رد على رد. هو في ناس كتيره جدا بتكتب على في السيفيهات بتاعتها سي ام اي بروسيس، سي ام اي بارت 1. كل دي طبعا ما تعتبرش شهادات، وكل لا، مفيش حاجه اسمها سي ام اي بروسيس اصلا، ومش حاجه يعني. 90% من السيفيهات سي ام اي بروسيس. انت بقى هتكتب هنا شهاده، تكتب لو انت اخدت دمجت الشهادتين زي ما قال احمد، دمجت الشهادتين مع بعض زي ما قال مستر براين، فانت كده بت خدت شهاده، خدت سيرتيفيكت، حطيتها في السي في. احسن بكتير من كل العك اللي حاصل زي ما قال احمد، بي اف ايه ومش عارف بتنجان ايه وشويه حاجات كده غريبه بتتقال في مصر. ففي الاخر دي شهاده معتمده من الاي ام اي نفسها.
طب انت ايه رايك يا
آه،
مصطفى، حاسس انك يعني انت مسؤول التدريب في 360؟ انا جات لي فكره كده على اللايف يعني، انك حضرتك ان نعمل كومبو، يعني نعمل شهادتين في شهاده يعني نظبط السعر للناس، بحيث ان الناس تدرس السي ام اي والاف ام اي في كومبو واحد. ايه رايك في الموضوع ده؟
والله فكره ممتازه، وفعلا يعني اقتراح هندرسه ان شاء
يعني
الله.
بدل هو ده ترشيح مستر هوك، يعني طبعا احنا مش هنتكلم بعده، وهو شايف رؤيته كده، احنا هنتبعها يعني. وان شاء الله تبقى يعني حاجه كويسه للناس، انك نحاول نظبط برضه السعر، ننزل بيه، يعني بحيث ان هي تكون الثلاث شهادات او التو بارس بتوع السي ام اي مع الاف ام اي ان شاء الله في باكج واحد.
فكره ممتازه هندرسها على طول ان شاء الله بعد
ان شاء
بعد
الله.
الويبينار ده باذن الله.
ان شاء الله بالتوفيق.
مستر هوك، مستر براين، وي فينيش العربي خلاص. آه،
Well, I don't know what more I have to say. I'm happy to answer questions. I'm in the process of typing one right now. So if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer whatever questions
just
people want to ask.
there is a question in Arabic here. Asking about is it for students the same as the professionals, or there is a discount for students?
There's
And
one price. There's one price.
one price.
Yeah.
كلها 249 مروة. There is another question here. If I start studying IFRS with simple background of accounting instead of MAAA, is that will be okay? Or I should start FMAA first and after that I take IFRS?
I just typed the answer. It depends on what you're doing. If what you're studying with IFRS is the debits and credits, then at that level, IFRS and US GAAP are the same. You have the same debits to buy fixed assets, the same debits to sell fixed assets. And so if you're learning the debits and credits when you're doing IFRS, it doesn't matter which one you learn first. If you're doing it, doing accounting under IFRS rules, but you don't understand the debits and credits, then you should do FMAA first. The other thing about FMAA, as I said, is that in a period of a few months, you can get a certificate. And so what are you studying with IFRS? How long is it until you're going to get something that you can show that says, I've studied, I've learned something, I've passed an exam? So it would depend a lot on what it is that you're doing with the IFRS.
We have someone raised his hand. Mr. Muhammad, now you can talk. You just unmute yourself and talk. Muhammad.
Yes, I think you're hearing my voice clearly or not?
Yes.
Okay, no problem. My question to Mr. Hock, okay? First one, my first question. The subject of this certificate, it will be academic, like we will suffering about studying. For example, my mother language is not English, okay? My mother language will be Arabic. So I'm afraid about the studying something, it will be another language, okay? Maybe I'm talking with the people with English language, it will be different than it will be with the academic study. This is number one. Number two for me, my question, if we are passing the exam of FMAA, okay? I hope that inshallah in the future, okay? It will be this, that's meaning, or you can say this will be decreasing from the subject of the CMA, or the institute will thinking about something like this in the future, okay, or no?
Okay. The second question first, the content you study in FMAA is also on CMA.
Yes.
And so when you study materials variances and labor variances as FMAA, that exact same topic is part of CMA. But in CMA, they do the materials variances, the labor variances, and then they keep doing more variances.
Mm-hmm.
So your CMA study time is shorter because you've already studied the material and labor variances. And you will just go ahead and start studying the more advanced variances.
That means it's not decreasing about the materials of CMA. This is different.
Correct. It's the same materials. The CMA material is just as long, but you have already studied some of it.
But my what to say, my idea in the future, not now. Okay, if you have a title in the institute, can you tell him that it will be duplicated about I will study this and I will study it again in CMA. Also, if it will be advanced, I understand. So that's meaning we have to avoiding the beginning information in the CMA to be studying the advanced. This is my idea. I'm not saying.
Well, it's something that these are different certifications, and the basic concepts are covered in both. And so one of the things about FMAA is that there is no educational requirement to be eligible. So there will be people around the world who don't have a 4-year bachelor's degree that would be able to take FMAA. There will be people around the world who continue not to take FMAA and go immediately to take CMA. If somebody's been working for a couple of years and has already mastered that basic level that's on FMAA, there's no reason for them to study FMAA before they study CMA. And so CMA will continue to be a standalone certification with its syllabus. FMAA is taking some of the foundational levels out of that, recognizing that there is a level in an organization where people don't need to know how to do variances with multiple inputs for material and labor, but they need to know how to do variance analysis and what it is. And for your first question about English, I think your English is fine. I don't see any problem listening to you or you're understanding me. The thing for everybody else who has this question, you need to remember that FMAA has no written element. So you do not have to think of something and create the sentences and the paragraphs to answer that question. You need to be able to read the question, understand what the question is, and be able to understand what the answer choices are. And so if you have been listening to me today and you understand 75% of what I say,
no, you can say 90% or 95% I understand.
Then you're fine. Because on the exam, you will be able to read it. You don't have to listen to it. So, you know, if I say pronounce a word not properly or unclearly, you'll be able to read it. And as you study, as you read the textbook, as you do the practice questions, your English will improve and your business English will improve. And so it's something that you can, teaching part in English, part in Arabic is very efficient. Because you're going to be reading the textbook in English, you're going to be doing the questions in English. That's the practice that you need so that when you go to the exam, you can read the question, understand it, and answer it. But you don't have to write anything. You don't have to create sentences and worry about the past tense of a verb or whatever the case may be. So if any of you listening, if you're understanding 75% of what I say, you're fine. You'll be able to take the exam and pass it.
Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
I believe that you mentioned before. I think about 5, 7, 6 years earlier, I heard you talk about that. You talk about that the CMA can be considered as a business English course.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, but so, I mean, when we write the books, that's the proper English. We don't change it. We don't make it so that it's not the right terminology. That is all the right terminology for all of the accounting and finance and everything that's in it. So as you study, you improve. I mean, you know that whenever you're learning a language, you have to practice it. You can't just read a foreign grammar book or a book of how to learn a language. You have to practice it. And so studying for these exams is your practice. And because you're practicing, you will get better as you go through the course.
Excellent. Do we have any other questions from our attendees? Okay. We don't have any other questions. We want to thank Mr. Brian for his insightful session today. Thank you. We are so proud to having you today with us. We have another we have another question. From Mr. Brian. Actually, I have a problem of the basics of the accounting. FMAA is suitable to me?
Yes, it will be as suitable as can be. That's what the beginning is. The first section A is all of those debits and credits. And so that's where you need to start. That's where you need to start.
Yes. Thank you, Brian. Thank you for attending with us today. Thank you for your insightful session. We are proud to having you with us. We are honored to be a partners for your esteemed company in Egypt and in Saudi Arabia also. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, everyone, for giving us some of your time this evening. I hope that you have your questions answered. I hope to have the opportunity to teach you FMAA and CMA in the future, whatever it is that you think is right for your career. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Brian, for your time, and we hope to continue these sessions in the future. We need to have more to talk about the CMA and CIA and FMAA.
Absolutely.
To gain knowledge from you, will be more than happy to have you in any time.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Brian.
Thank
Thank you.
Have a good night,
Thank
everyone.
you. Have a
You
nice
too.
day.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.